Okay, so guys, in order to make sure I stay on topic and stay on point with this video, I made a list of these things here. So look, I am going to be talking about things that I do not miss from the 90s. Okay, I was born in 1988, so if you want to go guess my age in the comment section, you can go ahead and do that, or you could just get a calculator and figure it out. But anyway, guys, if you were raised in the 90s, that means you are already old. Okay, so like I said, I was born in 88. You want to guess my age or calculate it, that's fine. I don't care. I know I'm kind of old. I'm not that old. I'm not a dinosaur. I'm still relevant. I still keep up with things. But anyway, guys, I'm going to be talking about things that I miss from the 90s. I messed that up. That I do not miss from the 90s, okay? Because there's a lot of things that were 90s worthy, but there were a lot of things also that I really don't miss or don't care for that came from the 90s. So let's start with the first one, guys. Rotary phones. Okay, so you're probably wondering what the hell is a rotary phone. So guys, a rotary phone basically is a phone that was kind of big, it was round, it had that big part of the phone on top. Now, you see, the thing about this phone is it has a roundabout dial with the numbers inside. But here's the thing though, unlike regular house phones or phones that had the cord or just any wireless home phone that you have in your house right now that most likely your parents use, because let's be honest, most teens and kids probably have smartphones now. So anyway, guys, what a rotary phone basically is a phone that you would take the dial, right? And it had these numbers and circles in it with a little I guess you could say like, I don't know exactly what you would call it. It's like a little pin, you know? You have to scroll the numbers around, hit the dial on each number, then you would scroll around, hit the same number, keep repeating that till you actually got the actual phone number, then you wait for it to ring. So imagine having to constantly turn a dial on one digit of a phone number. Keep doing this repeatedly till you get the whole phone number, right? So you can call someone. That's pretty insane, right? And it would make anyone who has a smartphone now very impatient as to where you can just pull up the number, right, on your contact list, hit that number and dial it, and already have the number dialing. So that's pretty, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? I mean, that's something I definitely don't miss. Rotary phones, for sure. Okay, pay phones. Now, again, this is going to be a very educational video for those of you who were not brought up in the 90s or did not have anything to do with the 90s, apparently. So a pay phone, I'll put it to you like this. Those phones were made specifically with the purpose of being used in public when either you didn't have access to a cell phone, because let's be honest, in the 90s, the only people who owned cell phones for the most part were rich and had money. And those phones were big, and they kind of took up your whole head. Or, you know, sometimes they had the phones in the cars in the 90s. But yeah, I'm getting a little off topic here. So a pay phone, basically, it's in some like stall somewhere on the street. You might have seen them. They're not used a lot anymore. They're still used by a couple of people, but only the ones that work, okay? You put money in. You put like a quarter, a nickel, or even a dime, right? Because you're trying to get a certain amount of time for money to talk on the phone. Now, it could range, I guess, from either 2 minutes or maybe 5 minutes. I don't remember exactly because it's been so damn long since I've used a payphone. But basically, you put money in and you call whoever you want to call. And, you know, you just talk to the person. Now, the only problem with this kind of phone is that once the time runs out, you can't talk anymore. You have to put more money in. So you see, it's kind of a waste of time, isn't it? See, being that everyone owns a cell phone now, a payphone would really be irrelevant this day and age. Now, like I said, people still use payphones because not everyone owns a cell phone. And I'm not going to assume that everyone owns a phone, obviously, but most people do now. So I'm saying a payphone today would not really make any sense if you already have access to a smartphone, and most people do. So it's not exactly a tragedy to not use a payphone now. Like I said, that's a very 90s thing for sure. Okay, so the next thing now, dial-up internet. Oh my God. Listen, oh, the struggle. Kids today will never know the struggle of dial-up internet. I'll put it to you like this, okay? Say you were wanting to go on the internet. If you wanted to do this in the 90s, you had AOL. You know, you have Blue Light. Remember that from Kmart. Would you believe Kmart actually had internet back in the day? So anyway, guys, the main thing to have in the 90s was AOL internet, basically America Online. It's not a very popular internet source anymore. People usually now use Firefox or they use Google Chrome. I'm not even sure Safari is a thing anymore. That was mainly used on Apple computers, and I think it's still being used anyway, guys. So yeah, in the 90s, it was AOL internet was all the rage, you know? And you would use Instant Messenger, remember that, if you were brought up in the 90s. I'm getting a little off topic here, okay? Okay, so dial-up internet. You make a connection with a cord to get that internet connection. You're waiting for this long, random, alien-sounding dial tone, right? I'm probably gonna put an example in the video when this is uploaded, okay? So when you wait for that, you finally get the internet going, okay? And here's the thing, right? You could only use the internet and that was it. You actually could not be on the internet and on the phone at the same time. Luckily, with services now, with cable TV and things of that nature, you can actually use the phone and the internet at the same time. Back in those days, if you wanted to use internet, you use internet. If you wanted to use the phone, you use the phone. So you had to make sure that when you were using the internet, you used it time-wise, okay? Nowadays, people don't have to worry about that because everyone can use the same, like, Wi-Fi signal or whatever, basically, to make sure that, you know, everyone gets to use internet whenever they want and no one has to be, you know, basically waiting on a time to use something else. And again, you couldn't use the phone. So you either had to be on the phone or on the internet if this was the 90s. So think about that. That's pretty crazy. So that means if you were on the internet for a long time, your parents will probably get pissed at you, right? You don't want that. So like I said, thank God now we can actually use our phones. We can actually be on a phone and be using the internet at the same time, multitasking, making things a lot more convenient for people. So that's pretty, it's pretty crazy to think that there was a time when you couldn't use the internet and the phone at the same time. But yes, kids who were not brought up in the 90s, this is actually a thing that happened, and just be glad it doesn't happen now. Okay, we're going to get a little history now with clothing. Rocawear. Okay, so pretty sure most of you, if not all of you, have heard of the rapper Jay-Z. He started a clothing line back in the 90s called Rocawear. The reason this is not relevant anymore is because Rockefeller Records has since been defunct and deactive. It's not been active. And Rockefeller Records technically does not exist as a company anymore. Jay-Z has Roc Nation. He's not even on Def Jam Records, which was a very popular record label in the 90s. And I guess Def Jam kind of is. But anyway, so yeah, that was all tied in with Rockefeller Records, which is a company started by Jay-Z and Damon Dash back in the 90s. And Rocawear was that clothing line. Now, I'll admit, when I first bought Rocawear, it was the pretty dope thing to have in school. But as I saw over the years, Rocawear started to kind of decline in their clothing, and the designs were starting to get a little trash. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And I don't know if there are any Rocawear fans out there still, but don't come for me in the comment section. I'm just telling you the truth. Rocawear is not a relevant clothing line anymore due to the fact that Rockefeller Records died sometime way, way, way back. In, like, say, 2009, 2008. It might have even been earlier than that, okay? But it was a Jay-Z clothing line, and that's pretty much the premise of it. And it's just not, it's like if you're wearing Rocawear right now, it's crazy. It's crazy. Just saying. Okay, so now we're going to get into terrible CGI in movies. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit of a movie nerd, and to be honest, CGI had a lot of great moments in the 90s. Examples, Jurassic Park, Men in Black, you know, even the Toy Story films that came out for Disney, right? But there were a few hits and misses when it came to CGI in the 90s. Another great 90s CGI example was The Matrix. This came out in 1999. That movie was awesome. I don't care what you want to say. The first original film will always be the best one. I don't care for Matrix Revolutions, and Matrix Reloaded was kind of okay. Don't come for me in the comment section. You know it's true. All right? But anyway, we're talking about the terrible CGI movies, okay? We're talking about the terrible CGI movies of the 90s. And if you don't know what CGI means, it basically means computer graphic imaging, okay? Computer graphic images. That's pretty much what it comes from, you know, special effects, those type of things. So I thought of two examples of movies that I saw in the 90s. I had very terrible, garbage CGI, just the worst CGI I've seen in my life. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. Okay, in the 90s, if you were a kid growing up, Power Rangers was definitely the thing, especially if you were a boy. And I loved the Power Rangers. I dressed up as a Red Ranger when I was a kid, so I know about that whole thing. And let me just say, even though I enjoyed the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, what I could not stand till this day, looking back at it, is the terrible CGI that came from the Zords and came from the actual Megazord and everything. It just, when you look at it now, it looks cringy and just completely pure garbage. It felt like, man, this is, I mean, I know they were working with what they had back then, but I just felt like you would have thought that, being that the Power Rangers was such a big thing in the 90s, they would have had a lot more money put into this thing to make it better. Because if you're telling me a movie that came out prior to Power Rangers, the Jurassic Park film, was actually better CGI-wise, well then again, Steven Spielberg had more money to do this. But I'm just saying, Power Rangers movie from the 90s, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, terrible CGI, definitely not great in that sense. Good in everything else, but in that, I didn't really care for it. As a matter of fact, the only thing that was probably cool looking about the entire Power Rangers movie from that time was the new improved Power Ranger suits that they had and the ninja costumes. Otherwise, I didn't care for it. I'm just being honest, I didn't care for it. So the other movie is Deep Blue Sea. Now, this was a movie about a genetically modified shark, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I don't remember that much about Deep Blue Sea. I don't remember watching it. It was basically a homicidal shark that got loose in a ship, and it basically killed almost everybody in the film. There's a very funny scene, okay, where Samuel L. Jackson is given this like motivational speech, and then all of a sudden gets snatched up by the shark. Okay, I'm probably gonna put the example video. Now, you can clearly see from that clip that that shark is not real, clearly, and it just looks fake. You can obviously tell it's fake. And I've seen other movies where they've done CGI for animals, especially like sharks and things, and it would actually look realistic. So as I told you, that was terrible CGI again, because the shark looked clearly fake. You can tell it looks fake. I mean, obviously they were working with what they had in the 90s, and again, the 90s had other great examples of CGI, but Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie from 1995 and Deep Blue Sea from 1999, definitely not good examples of CGI. So we're gonna move on now